For tuning in today. I am going to be trying something new today on Facebook, which I've not done before. But given that we have this full moon in Scorpio that is now waning, meaning that that moon's light is breaking down slowly. It was at its peak last night, just after 10 o'clock on the East Coast. And so I thought I would share with you a story about the beginning of my work working with trapped souls, meaning ghosts. Everyone refers to them as ghosts, but um, it is, I call them trapped souls. When a spirit, when a human passes and they have regrets, or there's some reason that they are not at peace, then the soul becomes trapped. And I've been doing this work for many years. I use a technique called psychopomp, and it is a shamanic technique which I was taught by Julianne Santini, which is a very dear friend of mine and a respected teacher. And so, given that we have this Scorpio full moon, it's a time of releasing old things that emotionally have held us back. And given the aspects that this full moon has formed, we've got the sun, and we've got Uranus, and we've got and Mercury, all in Taurus, and the full moon in Scorpio, and they're all squaring Saturn. So there's a level of fear attached to this full moon energy, but there's also a level of strength and will and desire to move beyond these old patterns that have held us back. So I thought I'd tell you a story today about the very first soul that I had the ability to help move on to her heaven. It was my mother. And her name was Juanita, and she was a very, very special lady. She died in 1996, and she was 55 years old, and she passed away from cancer, and I miss her dearly. And when I learned astrology, I began studying astrology in 1998 after the birth of my daughter, my youngest child, who's now 23. And I began studying astrology, and then I learned very quickly that astrology goes hand in hand with our spiritual focus, our spirituality. And so I began learning meditation. And one day I was out on my back porch, just taking a break, laying out in the sun, and I was meditating. And all of a sudden, I saw this place. It was like a room, and this room was filled with rocking chairs, and there were women sitting in these rocking chairs that were holding babies and rocking, and I saw my mother there. And so I walked over to my mother and I said, and this is during a meditation, and I said, "Mom," I said, "what are you doing here?" And she said, "Well, I'm happy here." My mother loved babies. She loved to sit and rock babies. That was what made her happy. And so she was holding a baby and she was rocking the baby. And I said, "Mom," I said, this is not heaven. This is not where you should be. And I said, "Would you walk with me?" And she agreed. And so she took my hand and I gave her a big hug. It was so nice to see her because she had been gone for 2 years. And it was heartbreaking because I was very close to my mother. And so she took my hand and we began to walk together, and we found ourselves in front of this big, beautiful white gate. And I opened the gate and we stepped through, and I could tell that she was very scared. And so I reassured her that all was well. And I really didn't know what was happening, except that I knew that she was not in the place where she should be. So we stepped through the door, and the door closed behind us. And what we saw was the most beautiful, beautiful place. It was all white, and all of a sudden we saw um, my great uncle. We called him Manot Carl, because we're French, and we saw him, and he brought my mother up. So I saw him, he approached us, and my mother hugged him, and then I saw faces that I've only seen in pictures, which were my mother's family, and these were all spirits that had crossed over, loved ones, people that she loved in her life. And they all came forward. You could see there was a group forming, and then there were angels that came. It was absolutely beautiful. And I turned to my mom and I hugged her. And I said, Mom, it's going to be okay. And she seemed to be okay. And my uncle took her hand, and she, I told her that I would see her again. And she walked with my uncle. And there was this beautiful big light that they walked into. And I just stood there and just cried with happiness that she was in a place I knew that she needed to be. I felt that she was fearful to face her life. We were Catholic, and the beliefs of the Catholic are that you're judged. And I don't believe that. I don't believe anybody's judged. I think that, and I had explained that to my mom when we were walking, that I don't believe anybody gets judged, and this is a beautiful place, and it's nothing to be scared of. And so she did move, and she did go with my great uncle, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so I waved to her, telling her I would see her again, and I had to turn around and walk back through those doors and come back to my body where I was meditating. So that was the very first trapped soul that I had the ability, had the good fortune to be able to be helpful with helping them to feel safe, to move to their heaven. And that's the way I refer to it. I think we all have a place that we consider heaven, and it's for each and every one of us. It might look a little different. I don't believe in hell. I believe that regrets and anger and fear and trauma can hold us back from moving on to our heaven. And so this began a journey for me of helping souls that were trapped. Suddenly I had all kinds of, everywhere I went, there were spirits that would find me, and there's many, many stories that I could share with you, and I'll do that, in time, here on Facebook. And I want to thank you for watching. I did draw, as you heard me say, I'm also, besides an astrologer for 23 years, I'm also a shamanic practitioner, and meaning a practitioner of healing arts of shamanism. And so I believe that nature is very, very wise, and that nature holds messages for us. If we see an animal cross our path, they are there for a reason. There's a symbology attached to that, and there's a message. And so today I asked my animal spirit cards what was the best message I could share with you. And this is the card I got, and it's the honeybee. And the message of the honeybee is, let compassion and forgiveness be your top priority in any situation. So whatever situation that you're dealing with in your life right now, whatever it may be that requires forgiveness, that requires you to identify what's holding you back from moving forward in your life. Scorpio is a beautiful, beautiful sign that suggests to us when that energy is present. And now the moon is full in the sign of Scorpio right now. So that means that we are all going through this period of emotional transition. And Scorpio is wonderful in that it helps us to identify patterns that we've been living through over and over. It's a sign that helps us to identify that needle in the haystack. It helps us to identify that pearl that's at the bottom of that lake or at the bottom of the ocean. So it is a sign that brings us the ability, supports us in identifying whatever it is that is important for us to understand and realize, especially around old patterns, meaning things that we've done over and over and over again, maybe patterns or behavior that we learned as a child, and they have not served us well on our life's path. Maybe some of them have, but primarily Scorpio is the sign that's attached with death. It's death and rebirth. It's ruled by the planet Pluto and by the planet Mars. And so there's an action or an activity that's required in order to change or transform our lives in some way. And it's a very, very powerful sign, very emotional sign, a very sexual sign, a very risque sign. So, it's really good to be conscious of this energy right now. But primarily, like this card says, forgiveness. And when I say forgiveness, I don't mean forgiveness in the traditional sense. I mean forgiveness in a way that comes from your heart. Because our mind will always tell us something different than our heart is telling us. But if they're in alignment, then there is a balance. There's a peace inside. So if there's anything that you can do, here's something I'm going to suggest to you that you can do. And I have found this exercise to be extremely helpful to many of my clients. If there's something that you're hoping or wishing or trying to forgive someone for, there's an exercise you can do. I do work with angels and angelic energy, because there's an angel sign attached to each zodiac sign. And the one that is attached to Scorpio is Archangel Michael. And the one attached to Taurus, where the sun is right now and Uranus is Archangel, just one moment, I believe it's Haniel. And I'm looking for just be patient with me for a minute. Archangel, be patient here just for a second. Archangel Uriel. And so here's what I would recommend you do if there's something that you're wishing or hoping or would like to forgive. You can take a piece of paper and at the top make 3 columns. And in the first column, put name of person. In the second column, put situation. And the third column, put event. And underneath that, or even above it, wherever you choose, write this out. I willingly release, and you can write, the name of a person, a situation, or event, in whichever column that is. And this might be a big list, it might be a small list. Everybody's different, and we're all at a place right now that it's so important for us to release, let go of, surrender to these higher powers that are supporting us to move on beyond these spaces that pull us down, that are heavy. So write the name of a person, a situation, or event. So the way this goes is I willingly release the name of a person, a situation, or event to the light of love, and in this I free us all. Forgiveness of another person is very freeing. When we can't forgive is when we get sick, because our body holds this memory in it. And when we can't forgive, we end up harboring these energies, harboring these feelings. Regret and bitterness can be a part of what our body holds. So it's very important, but I'm going to recommend one thing. And that is, make sure that you put your name on that list, because ultimately forgiving others and letting that go and letting God take that and take it from you is very powerful. But if you also forgive yourself, ultimately, you're going to feel so free. You're going to feel a huge transition in your life. And this may take some time to do. And the other things you can do is you can ask Archangel Uriel to, as he is, and I'm just going to back up here for a second, he's a very gentle and loving energy, and his name, Uriel, means light of God. Ask him to illuminate a situation or a relationship that is causing anxiety or confusion, and you'll gain new clarity and insight into which direction to take. Uriel's aura is a beautiful pale yellow, so you may see that pale, beautiful pale yellow in the process of doing this this exercise. The pale yellow is a color of spiritual growth and ascension. Ask him to fill your heart and your mind with his glowing energy, and you'll find that you instantly feel warm, safe, and protected by a love that is literally beyond words. Uriel helps with the release of resentment, anger, and unforgiveness. He gently teaches us that these thoughts and feelings are really only harmful to ourselves, and that when we willingly let them go, we free both the person that you had this experience with, and you also ultimately free yourself. So other things you can do is you can also, if you can get some crystal citrine or selenite. These are very powerful crystals that will open you to true abundance and gentleness, and will greatly enhance your connection to Uriel and your higher self. So I'm going to share, each time that I share another story about my experiences working with trapped souls, I'm going to also provide you with information and tools and outlets for dealing with different things that you're, based on the astrological energies and my spiritual guidance. I'm going to always offer you some method for healing. And the other archangel that's associated primarily with this full moon, the Sun in Taurus and Uranus. Uranus is like this lightning bolt, this waking up, this sudden realization or intuition that something needs to change, that we've been holding on to, that's holding us down. And it's very valuable. These are very valuable things that you can do. So Archangel Michael is the one associated with the moon in Scorpio. And his name actually means in God's likeness. And he is closely aligned with both heaven and earth. And because of this, many people are aware of his active presence in their lives. Now, Scorpio, this is the archangel associated with Scorpio energy. And we certainly have a very powerful, and they're calling this a pink moon. So there's a great beauty to be discovered through this energy of this full moon in Scorpio. And so he is closely aligned with both heaven and earth. And because of this, many people are aware of his active presence in their lives. And so you may see his energy through a beautiful, deep purple aura, which you may see as a flashlight, a flash of light when you close your eyes, or as illuminated sparkles around those who call upon him. And you can also really anchor his energy around you by using the crystals sugilite, purple fluorite, deep amethyst, and they're closely aligned with his protective and loving energy. And to invoke him, all you have to do is say, Archangel Michael, please surround me in your glorious protective white light. I ask that this light shield me from all fear, harm, and negativity. And most important of all is to always say thank you, because gratitude and appreciation are so important when you're invoking an archangel. And so, everyone, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you've found this information helpful. I'm Andrea Klim from Turn to the Stars. My website is www.turntothestars.com, and I look forward to hearing from you and staying in touch. I hope you have a great full moon, and I hope you can see all that beautiful pink color. I was outside last night in my front yard in my pajamas, don't tell anyone, because the moon was so beautiful. And I had my phone and I took this picture, and the full moon looked like it was a star, a sparkling star, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And then I have this app that I use, Skyview, and it actually showed the constellation Scorpius with the full moon right in that constellation. So it was absolutely gorgeous. So if you get a chance to go out tonight and take a look at that moon and just bask in that light that's being reflected on the moon by the sun, I think you're going to really feel its energy, her energy. The moon is a lunar and a feminine type of energy, and so is Scorpio. Scorpio is a feminine sign, very, very powerful, very, very supportive of transcendence and, letting go of things that no longer serve. And so once you make a decision with this fixed energy, I'm going to say stick with it. Don't quit. Keep on, and always turn your face to the light. All right? So as I always say at the end of any broadcast, turn to the stars and you'll find your answers there. And I hope you all have a great day and evening, and I'll see you soon.